for me, the key point of the response is there is no reliable data source that shows who owns individual properties or units. In addition, owners with multiple properties often create legal entities such as LLCs, which further complicates accurate ownership tracking. So if the crux of the ordinance is based on how many somebody owns, and we don't have any data that shows how many somebody owns, then the ordinance itself is quite ineffective. And you would be chasing down a rat hole to figure out, is it in their name or is it in an LLC, et cetera, et cetera. So I say all that because, again, when we're talking about the most vulnerable people in our community, we want to make sure these policies are implemented in a way for which people have faith in the accountability of the ordinance itself. Okay. I also understand that there were some amendments that would have changed the penalties, so much so that somebody would not be fined until their third offense. 3 times you could, well, 2 times, and then ideally on the third time, that you would be allowed to discriminate against a veteran based on how they pay without actually having to pay a fine twice. Our penalties for people who have dogs off a leash are actually more strict than that.
So the PCDC asked us to consider escalating penalties similar to the proactive apartment inspection program. This was our draft, was looking at first perhaps a mandatory warning, mandatory training, escalating to an actual fee imposed, and referral to the city attorney's office.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. When you spoke to your colleagues in Fort Worth about this ordinance that they have passed as originally put forth by American GI Forum, which prohibits all discrimination and a $500 penalty on first instance of discrimination, what was their feedback?
Sure. We didn't get a ton of information back from our colleagues at the city of Fort Worth. I'm sure they have lots and lots of things going on. But we did just understand that there didn't seem to be a large volume of citations or violations noted. So the ordinance still stands, and we aren't really hearing back from them that it has caused a lot of difficulty for landlords. That could be lots of factors, such as, could be possible education isn't where it needs to be. So part of what we were asked to consider was how we would ensure we're doing outreach and making sure both the veterans with vouchers know of this protection. So if there is a violation, they can report it. We can have some effectiveness there. And that the housing providers, landlords, owners also understand what their responsibilities property owners are and how they would consider the vouchers.
Great. Thank you, Veronica. So based on what this means for our community, based on the near impossibility, it sounds like, of accurately enforcing this ordinance, given the amendments, I move to amend the ordinance as follows. In Section 1, revise the definition of housing provider to include, quote, managing agent or other person having the right to lease, sublease, or rent a housing accommodation, end quote. In Section 2, remove the wording, quote, that rents more than 4 units regardless of location, end quote. In Section 3, remove the entire current section and replace it as follows. The City of San Antonio shall enforce this ordinance through regular inspections, monitoring, and investigation of complaints filed by veterans who believe they have been subjected to source of income discrimination. B, upon finding a violation of this ordinance, the city shall take appropriate enforcement actions, which may include but are not limited to $500 fines per violation and mandatory compliance training for housing providers. Complaints regarding violations of this ordinance may be filed by calling 311, the city's Neighborhood and Housing Services Department Fair Housing Division, or the Office of Compliance, Opportunity, and Access. And then include Section 6, which is to provide an update to City Council to assess this ordinance 6 months after passage. You get the second? Okay. All right, it's moved and seconded based on the amendments. We may begin discussion.